Ito ang Bombo Radyo Philippines. Fully digitalized. Numero 1 sa balita, komentaryo, drama at serbisyo publiko. Bombo Radyo Philippines.
Bombo Radyo Philippines.
Unmatched. Number 1 and most trusted source of news and information.
Radyo Bombo.
Pastor Nation, muli ho tayong sumasayang papawid. Makalipas ho ang ilang patlang dahil magre-resume na ho itong pagdinig dyan sa International Criminal Court at kaugnay pa rin ho ng kasong kinakaharap ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. Sa mga sandaling ito mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation ay tutunguhin natin muli ang The Hague dyan sa Netherlands para naman sa resumption itong confirmation of charges hearing na atin hong inisyal na naiparinig at naipapanood kanina sa atin hong coverage mga bandang alas 4:30 ho ng hapon oras dito sa Pilipinas. At sa mga sandaling ito, titignan ho natin kung ano pa ang magiging pag-usad nito lalo't nasa huling oras na singkad na lamang ho ito ng unang araw ng confirmation of charges hearing dyan ho sa pre-trial chamber 1 at dito ay humaharap yung magkabilang panig, prosecution at ang panig ho ng depensa ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. Ating tunghayan mga kabombo, mga ka-Star Nation, ang bahagi pa rin ng pag-usad ng naturang confirmation of charges hearing. Kanina kasi ay binibigyan ng pagtimbang ng mga huwes itong dalawang panig. May espesipikong oras na inilalaan sa bawat kampo ng depensa at prosecution upang mailahad ang kanilang mga argumento para naman sa rason kung bakit kailangan umusad yung kaso laban sa dating presidente. Nakapagsalita ho kanina ang deputy prosecutor o chief prosecutor ng panig ho ng mga biktima and of course yung victims counsel na si Attorney Joel Butuyan na isa rin hong Pilipino. Habang sa panig naman ng depensa, nagsalita kanina si Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, ang lead counsel ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. At dito naman ay syempre kinounter o kinontra niya yung mga naging pahayag ng panig ho ng prosecution. Yan ay bahagi ng kanyang trabaho at nandun din present ang iba pang mga abogadong Pilipino sa katauhan naman ni Attorney Salvador Medialdea, dating Executive Secretary. Naroon din si Attorney Bebot Bello, ang dating kalihim ng Department of Labor and Employment at ganun din ang iba pang mga personalidad. Just like Attorney Martin Del Gracia naman huy dating pinuno ng Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board. Maliban ho dyan, nandun din si Attorney Salvador Panelo na nagsalita na rin kanina dun sa mga nakaabang pero dun sa confirmation of charges hearing ay hindi pa ho naglalahad ng kanyang saloobin at ganun din yung mga punto na kanya namang i-discuss. Maybe tomorrow or some other days ay siya naman yung magsasalita mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation. So binibigyan ho sila ng specific time and kung malapit nang matapos ay bibigyan ho ng warning na malapit nang magtapos yung oras na nakalaan para sa mga partikular na taong nagbibigay ho ng kanilang panig, legal point of view hinggil ho dito sa issue ng kinakaharap na kaso ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. At inaasahan na alas 10 ng gabi, oras sa Pilipinas, magtatapos ho itong proceedings para sa unang araw pa lamang ho yan. 4 hong magkakasunod na araw ito, bukas meron uli and then may patlang ho na isang araw and mag-resume ng Huwebes at Biyernes mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation. Ganun ho ang takbo ng schedule alinsunod doon sa inilabas ho na abiso ng International Criminal Court. So para doon sa ating mga late tuners ay ito'y parte ho ng proseso. Hindi pa ho ito yung trial proper, no? Baka ho mapagkamalian natin na ito ay mismong paglilitis na, hindi pa ho. kailangan dito ng confirmation of charges dito sa pagdinig po na ito. And kung kumpirmahin ng mga huwes, ay saka lamang ho ito uusad sa panibagong level at yun yung full trial. Initially ay sinasabi ng kampo ni former President Duterte na hindi nakakayanin ng dating presidente na humarap sa full trial, kaya naman ay pinapakiusap nga yung kanyang kalusugan na ikonsidera, mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation. Bago yan ay kuha muna tayo ng mga karagdagang update kaugnay dun sa mga nakalipas na mga pangyayari kanina na talagang nagmarka at merong bigat hinggil ho dito sa pagtatakbo ng kasong kinakaharap ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. At ikunin ang balita, mga karagdagang update mula kay Bombo Genesis Ratio.
Bombo Dennis, mga kabombo Star Nation, balikan lamang natin yung ilan pamahaganapan kanina before nag-break ang International Criminal Court para dun sa huling session ngayong araw na ito bago tuluyang tapusin ang unang araw ng confirmation of charges hearing ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Kung babalikan natin, nauna natin naibalita kanina na dapat ay gumamit muna ng alias ang mga abogado doon sa pagtukoy sa mga biktima ng drug war, biktima at mga witness dito sa kaso ni dating Pangulong Duterte. Pero may tinukoy ang International Criminal Court na 5 witness, pinangalanan na 5 witness, Bombo Dennis, mga kabombo Star Nation. Balikan lamang natin itong background nitong mga witness na ito or mga biktima ng drug war, na yung mga kaanak nila ngayon ay ilan sa mga tinitingnan na posibleng maging witness. Ang una dito, Bombo Dennis, kung maalala natin, itong si dating Albuera Leyte Mayor Rolando Rosal Espinosa Jr. Pinangalanan siya ng International Criminal Court bilang isa sa mga biktima ng extrajudicial killing. Kung babalikan natin ang kasaysayan nitong si Mayor Espinosa, dati ho siyang pinangalanan ni dating Pangulong Duterte na sangkot sa illegal drugs trade noong Agosto ng taong 2016. Siya ay naaresto noong October 2016 dahil sa illegal na droga at illegal possession of firearms at pinagbabaril siya sa loob ng kulungan noong November 5 ng taong 2016. Yan ay ilang buwan lamang matapos maupo si dating Pangulong Duterte. Lumalabas sa investigasyon ng National Bureau of Investigation na isa itong rub out. Pangalawa sa mga tinukoy ng International Court ay si Raul Yap. Siya ay kapwa detainee nitong si Mayor Espinosa at inakusahan si Yap na nanlaban din sa mga pulis habang nasa loob ng kulungan kasama itong si Mayor Espinosa. Pangatlo dito, Bombo Dennis, ay ang alkalde dati ng Osamis City sa Misamis Occidental, itong si Mayor Reynaldo Paruhinog Sr. Pinangalanan siya ni dating Pangulong Duterte na sangkot sa illegal drugs trade noong Agosto 7 ng taong 2016. At siya ay napatay sa police raid sa kanyang bahay sa Osamis noong July 30, 2017 habang inihahain ang search warrant sa kanyang property sa kanyang bahay ito. Ang pang-apat dito sa pinangalanan ng International Court na biktima, Bombo Dennis, ay itong si Benjamin Vizda. Siya ay isang sibilyan na kasama sa drugs SWAT list itong si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Siya ay napatay ng mga kapulisan sa may Tondo sa lungsod ng Maynila matapos sumanong manlaban noong October 5, 2016. Ito isang operasyon noon ng Philippine National Police. Inakusahan siya na ng agaw ng baril. Batay na rin sa nauna nating pagsasaliksik kanina, Bombo Dennis. Ang panglima dito, ang 17 anyos na si Kian de los Santos o Kian Lloyd de los Santos. Siya yung estudyante na nabaril sa anti-illegal drugs operation sa Caloocan City noong Agosto 16 ng taong 2017. Yan ay matapos umanong manlaban. Hindi siya kasama sa barangay o police drugs SWAT list, pero sinasabi ng pulisya noon na siya ay runner daw ng illegal drugs trade doon sa kanilang lugar. Kinalaunan, kung babalikan natin, Bombo Dennis, 3 pulis na sangkot doon sa pagpatay na ito ang kinalaunan ay kinasuhan at na-convict nga ng kasong murder. So ito Bombo Dennis, yung tanging 5 biktima na pinangalanan ng International Court ngayong araw mula doon sa 78 na pangalan ng mga biktimang included doon sa listahan na inilabas ng International Criminal Court. Lahat ng mga ito ay redacted na, Bombo Dennis, kasi ayaw ng ICC na mapangalanan etong iba pa maliban dito sa 5 na ating nabanggit kanina. So nagpapatuloy pa rin tayo sa pagtutok dito sa mga kaganapan before yung ikatlo na session ngayong araw. Yan muna ang ating may babatong report, Bombo Dennis.
Okay, with that, maraming salamat Bombo Genesis, mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation, yan yung konting recap doon sa proceedings kanina. And naghihintay ho tayo ng hudyat para sa resumption nitong confirmation of charges hearing dyan sa bahagi po ng The Hague. At dito natin malalaman kung ano yung susunod sapagkat inaasahan na may ilalabas na instruction sa pagtatapos nito, mga bandang alas 10, ilalahad naman kung ano yung aasahan para sa bukas. And of course, sa mga susunod na araw, bali 4 na sesyon po ito na nakatakda para sa confirmation of charges. And later on, ay kung papayagan, sabi nga niyan, may ilang senaryo na tinitignan dito. Siyempre, kung papahintulutan ng mga huwes na mag-resume itong kaso po na ito, ay magtutungo na ito sa full trial. Pero kung hindi naman, ay maaaring may konsidera ang paglaya ni former President Rodrigo Duterte kung hindi ho i-acknowledge yung naturang mga aligasyon, kung makikitaan ng kahinaan at iba pang mga salik na kinakailangan i-konsidera, ay maaari ho itong humantong sa pagkaka-release ng inaakusahan. Sa ngayon ho, ay suspect pa lamang ang turing kay former President Rodrigo Duterte at hindi pa ho siya akusado o accused batay dun ho sa mga information na hawak ko ng magkabilang panig. And even yung prosecution team ay hindi pa ho nila masabi na accused ito si former President Rodrigo Duterte. So, maselan ho ito mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation, kaya kinakailangan nating hintayin kung ano't ano man yung pag-usad at mga direktiba o kaya naman ay mga abiso manggagaling dyan sa mismo mga opisyal ng International Criminal Court. So, kung mapapansin ho ninyo, hindi ito katulad ng mga proceedings sa piskalya at sa korte sa Pilipinas dahil ito ho ay iba ang mga panuntunang ipinapairal ng International Criminal Court. Usually kasi mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation, kapag ang isang tao ay meron ng warrant of arrest, ibig sabihin ay isa na siyang akusado pag dito sa Pilipinas. Pero doon sa International Criminal Court, ibang estilo ho mga kabombo. Inaakusahan pero nasa kustodiya na ho nila ang persona at ito nga sa katauhan ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ang hawak na ho ng mga otoridad, mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation dyan sa International Criminal Court. At naka-detain, in fact, mag-iisang taon na ho, sa 11 ng Marso, isang taon na ho sa detention facility ng International Criminal Court si former President Duterte. Batay ho dun sa pagbabalik tanaw natin sa mga nangyari last year kung saan ay pinangunahan ni dating Philippine National Police Chief. Ngayon ho ay Metropolitan Manila Development Authority General Manager Nicolas Torre III. Itong naging pag-aresto kay former President Rodrigo Duterte nang siya ho ay bumalik galing sa Hong Kong. Ganun ho yung naging setup at dinala siya dyan sa may Villamor Air Base bago ho inilipad patungo naman ng Netherlands. And the rest is history ka nga, dahil nanatili na siya doon after that process ay doon na ho siya na-detain ng mga otoridad sa The Hague sa ilalim ho ng kautusan ng International Criminal Court dahil may existing warrant of arrest laban ho sa kanya. Sa kasalukuyan, may mga tinukoy na rin ho ng mga personalidad na tinatawag na co-perpetrators. But of course, kinakailangan yung warrant of arrest kung aarestuhin ang isang individual. But as of now, wala pa hong inilalabas na kopya ng mandamiento de arresto na naisa sa publiko. Although, may mga pronouncement, kagaya ho ni Interior, ni Ombudsman Boying Rimulya, and later on, nagsalita din yung kanyang kapatid na si Interior Secretary John Vic Rimulya about that warrant of arrest. Pero ito ho ay digital copy ka nga, pero hindi pa ho ito na isa sa publiko. So that's the reason why na hindi pa ho mai-implement, mga kabombo. at mga ka-Star Nation. Dahil hindi pa ho hawak yung actual, yung physical copy ng naturang warrant of arrest. But of course, yan ay bahagi ng proseso ng International Criminal Court at natap po dyan ang International Police Organization o yung Interpol at sila naman yung katuwang pagka i-implement yun hong kautusan ng pag-aresto laban dito sa mga individual. But sa ngayon, dahil wala pa hong physical copy ng warrant of arrest, ay hindi pa ho yan na ipapatupad mga kabombo. At kanina rin nakausap po natin ang ilang mga personalidad, even yung mga kababayan ho natin na nakaantabay din dyan ho sa bahagi ng dahig kung anong kahihinatnan. Sila man ay nakaantabay din at tinitignan kung ano yung magiging takbo ng kaso. May mga nagrally, may mga programang idinaos, pero sa kwento kanina ng atin hong correspondent mula ho dyan sa bahagi ng dahig, ay hindi naman ho nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na sabay-sabay na humarap itong mga rallyista pro and anti-Duterte doon sa harapan ng International Criminal Court. Dahil magkahiwalay na oras ho yung ibinigay sa kanila para maiwasan yung tensyon sa pagitan ng dalawang panig. Yung isang grupo kasi nananawagan na palayain si former President Rodrigo Duterte, and here comes another one na grupo na nananawagan na tuluyang hatulan ang dating Pangulo ng Pilipinas. So ganun ho mga kabombo ang mga senaryo kanina dyan sa harapan ng International Criminal Court. But of course, may ilan ho sa kanila na talagang nanggaling pa dito sa Pilipinas na nagpursige na makapasok ho, makadalo dyan sa proceedings. Pero sabi nga niyan, first come, first serve, hindi kayang i-accommodate lahat. Kukunting slots lamang ho yung naipagkaloob para dun sa mga kababayan natin na personal na nagtungo doon. And yung mga kaanak naman ng mga biktima ng war on drugs ay dismayado dahil ho hindi nila nakita ng personal, hindi nila nakaharap ng personal itong si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte dahil nga merong waiver. Ang kahulugan ng waiver ay hindi ho siya haharap na ng personal dito sa confirmation of charges. Pero dito lang ho yun sa confirmation of charges sa hearing. Hindi pa ho kasali yung full trial at yan ho ay another story ika nga mga kabombo. Okay, kuha muna tayo ng report mula sa ating news team dyan sa mga kaganapan sa Palasyo Malacanang at monitoring na rin doon sa mga reaksyon ng ilan ho sa ating mga mambabatas. Kuha tayo ng update mula kay Bombo Annalise Soberano.
Bombo Dennis, may reaksyon na nga ang Palasyo ng Malacanang kaugnay sa naging pahayag ni Attorney Nicholas Kaufman. Maring itinanggi ng Malacanang ang pahayag ni Kaufman na nagsasabing sinisikap ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na i-neutralize ang ligasiya ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Reaksyon ito ng Palasyo sa sinabi ni Kaufman. Ayon kay Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro, walang basehan ang akusasyon at taliwas ito sa umiiral na mga katotohanan kaugnay ng mga kasong inihain laban kay Duterte sa International Criminal Court. Iginit pa ng Palasyo na ang mga reklamong may kaugnayan sa umunoy krimen laban sa sangkatauhan o crimes against humanity ay inihain sa International Criminal Court noong 2017. Panahon nito ng pribadong mamamayan pa lamang si Pangulong Marcos. Dagdag pa ng Malacanang, sa halip na magbigay ng malinaw na depensa sa mga alegasyon ng extrajudicial killings na iniugnay sa termino ni Duterte bilang alkalde at pangulo, umiiwas pa ng piniling maglabas ng mga pahayag na may bahid politika. Tinukoy rin ng Palasyo ang naging pahayag ni dating Labor Secretary at abogadong si Attorney Silvestre Vello III na umamin na may insidenteng kinasangkutan si Duterte kung saan itinapon ang isang tao mula sa helicopter isang alegasyong matagal nang isinasangkot sa dating Pangulo. Binigyan din ng Malacanang na mas makabubuting pagtuunan ng pansin ang mga legal na usapin at ebidensya sa halip na magbato ng akusasyong politikal. Sa panig naman ni Kaufman, iginiit nito na may layunin umanong politikal ang mga hakbang laban kay Duterte, kabilang ang sinasabing pagtatangka, pahinain ang kanyang legasiya. Wala pang karagdagang pahayag ngayon ang kampo ng Duterte hinggil nga sa naging reaksyon ng Malacanang. Mula sa Malacanang, Bombo Anali Montaño Soberano nag-uulat. And this is Bombo Radio Philippines, the #1 and most trusted source of news and information. Basta Radio, Bombo!
7 minuto na makalipas ang ikasyam ng gabi. At habang tayo nakaantabay mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation, atin hong kukunin din mamaya. Ano nga ba mga kahulugan ho nito mga to, ng mga prosesong kinakailangan pagdaanan? Dahil importante, guided ho tayo ng mismong nakakabatid ng mga prosesong kailangan hong sundin dyan. At mainam na ang magpaliwanag ay isang eksperto, maya-maya lamang ho yan mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation. Dahil ngayon ay palaisipan pa rin ho kung ano yung susunod. Sinong isasalang? Kailan makikita ng personal? Ito si former President Duterte. Maraming mga ganun ho na katanungan. Even dito sa comment section natin, kanina ay may mga nagtatanong. Meron ding mga nagbibigay ng kanilang komento dahil marami ang nagtataka kung paano yung magiging takbo ng legal proceedings dyan sa International Criminal Court. Dahil nga nababanggit natin na hindi ho ito kapareho ng karaniwan na pag-handle ng mga kaso. Ito ho ay kakaibang sistema dahil ito ho ay dyan sa Europa at iba yung legal process na kanilang ginagawa batay doon sa mga panuntunang itinatakda. Under nung Rome Statute mga kabombo na siyang pinakambasihan ng existence ng International Criminal Court. And standby muli ang atin hong iba pang mga reporters, si Bombo Genesis Ratio maya-maya lamang dahil doon sa iba pang mga development na kanyang binabantayan dyan pa rin sa takbo ng International Criminal Court. And at this point in time mga kabombo, mga ka-Star Nation, kukuha ho tayo ng ilang mga pagpapaliwanag hinggil sa mga pangyayari dito sa International Criminal Court. Pero bago ho yan, papatayo ng mga karagdagang update mula sa tinutukang kaganapan ni Bombo Genesis Ratio. Bombo Gen, please come in.
Bombo Dennis, mga kabombo Star Nation, habang hinihintay natin itong ikatlong session ngayong araw na ito sa pagsisimula ng confirmation of charges hearing laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, balikan lamang natin yung ilan sa mga nabanggit kanina ni Deputy Prosecutor Mame Manjayaniang ng International Criminal Court. Iginiigit kasi ng Office of the Prosecutor na maraming mga public statements si dating Pangulong Duterte na magpapatunay sa aktual na sistemang ipinatupad sa ilalim ng kampanya kontra sa illegal na droga. Sa naging mensahe nitong si Prosecutor Niang ay binalikan niya ang panahon kung kailangan o kung kailan nangampanya pa lamang itong si dating Pangulong Duterte bilang Pangulo ng Pilipinas o para sa pagkapangulo ng Pilipinas. At ipinangako raw noon ni dating Pangulong Duterte na magsasagawa siya ng isang quote-unquote common plan para ma-neutralize yung mga kriminal sa buong Pilipinas kung siya ang mahahalal bilang Pangulo ng bansa. Noong nahalalaan niya ang Pangulo at tuluyang nanumpa noong ika-30 ng Hunyo ng taong 2016, nabigyan siya ng pagkakataon na sundan at ipatupad ang naturang plano. Tinukoy din ni Prosecutor Niang ang umano'y pagbuo ni dating Pangulong Duterte ng kontrobersyal na Davao Death Squad. Ito ho yung isang paramilitary group na itinuturong nasa likod ng mga patayan sa ilalim ng illegal drugs trade. Kasama rin dito anya ang pagpundo ng dating Pangulo sa malawakang pagpatay, pagbibigay ng pabuya sa mga nakakapatay na drug suspect at pangakong poprotektahan niya ang mga law enforcer na nakakapatay sa ngalan ng illegal na droga. Balikan natin yung ilang bahagi, Bombo Dennis, ng naging mensahe kanina ni Deputy Prosecutor Mame Manjayaniang.
when Mr. Duterte became president on the 30th of June 2016, he sat at the very apex of the political power structure in the Philippines. He became the head of state, head of government, and commander-in-chief of all armed forces of the Philippines. He also became the leader of the country's police forces. This level of authority allowed him to wield de jure and de facto control over those implementing the common plan nationwide. Mr. Duterte's control over the crime is also apparent from his ability to interrupt their commission when he so chooses. And as outlined in our reconfirmation brief, he successfully suspended police anti-illegal drug operation on 2 occasions following public outcries in response to particularly notorious killings. On both occasions, the number of reported killings dropped significantly during the suspension, showcasing his control. So when he asks people to act, they act. When he asks them to refrain, they do so. So they oblige. So Mr. Duterte was well aware of the authority he had over the perpetrators. In a speech given to the National Bureau of Investigation in November 2016, he expressly acknowledged his position of power. And this is what he said. To the military, I am commander-in-chief. On the civilian side, I am the chief executive of the government. And when talking about the police, this is what he's saying. They are my subordinate, and I am ultimately responsible for their deeds. And these are quotations, and they can be found at tab 131.2 of our prosecution list of materials at ERN PHL-OTP-00095-679, page 0004, and the relevant lines are from 131 to 134. And the direct perpetrators complied with Duterte's order and respected his authority. Mr. Duterte was respected by the physical perpetrators. He was feared, and his order and instruction were obeyed. One insider witness explicitly says that the police killed, and I quote, because of the directive of the president. This is what the witness said, an insider.
Bahagi yan, Bombo Dennis, nung naging mensahe kanina ni Deputy Prosecutor Manjaye Niang. Naninindigan din ang Office of the Prosecutor ng International Criminal Court na bahagi ng malawakan at sistematikong pag-atake ang umano'y 78. O itong sinasabi natin kanina, na 78 kaso ng murder at attempted murder sa ilalim ng pamamahala ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte at hindi lamang iyong matatawag na random crimes. Sa kabuuan niya, ang drug war ng dating Pangulo ay nagresulta sa pagkakapatay ng libu-libong sibilyan at marami sa mga ito ay mga kabataan. Kabilang na yung nabanggit natin kanina, Bombo Dennis, na 17 anyos na si Kian de los Santos, isa doon sa 5 tinukoy o pinangalanan ng International Criminal Court na nasawi na tinatawag na extrajudicial killing. Yan muna ang ating mga development na may babahagi muli sa mga kababayan natin kaugnay pa rin sa ating pagtutok sa confirmation of charges hearing ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Back to you, Bombo Dennis.
Maraming salamat, Bombo Genesis. Mga kabombo, mga ka-Star Nation, bahagi po yan ng ating recap kaugnay doon sa naging takbo ng confirmation of charges hearing kanina. Nagsimula ho kasi ito alas 4:30 ng hapon yung ating coverage. Pero doon sa The Hague ay bandang alas 5:30 ng hapon, no? At yan ay oras sa Pilipinas. kung itutugma ho natin mga kabombo. Tayo ay ahead ng 7 oras sa kanila. Kaya naman mga kabombo, mga ka-Star Nation, yung dapat alas 5 ng hapon yan magsisimula dito sa atin. Ngunit kailangan na iurong ng 30 minuto dahil may mga ginagawang mga proseso doon sa International Criminal Court. Kaya ho, ganun yung nagiging takbo ng oras kung papaano at kailan magsisimula yung kanilang mga proceedings, mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation. So ito lamang, ituloy natin mga kabombo itong pagkalap ng mga paliwanag hinggil dito sa takbo ng mga proseso na kailangang pagdaanan ng kaso ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. At ito lamang nasa linya ho ng ating komunikasyon si Attorney Rodel Taton at isa ho siyang international law expert at siya ay Dean ng Graduate School of Law sa San Sebastian College, Recoletos. So, at siya ho ay magpapaliwanag sa atin ng ilang puntos upang mabatid ho natin after nitong mga batuhan na ito o 5 minutes, another 5 minutes naman sa kabila and ipaparinig yung kanilang argumento o ano na ang susunod ho dito. Dapat mainam na mabatid din ho natin ito mga kabombo upang guided tayo doon sa atin hong tinutugay-gayan mga kaganapan lalo't napakaraming Pilipinong interesado dito ho sa usapin po na ito. Alam niyo kung bakit? Every time na may ilalabas na mga dokumento galing ho dyan sa The Hague ay talagang nagiging talk of the town. Ika nga, lalo't napakarami hindi matatawaran mga kabombo. Until now, talagang napakaraming supporters ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. But of course, hindi rin ho natin maisasantabi, napakarami din ho ng mga kontrapartido dyan sa naging programa ng dating Pangulo at syempre marami din ho kasi ang nagtuturong kumbaga inaakusahan ito si former President Duterte na nasa likod ng umano'y extrajudicial killings. So yan din, napakarami at yung iba ho ay nandun sa The Hague upang personal na obserbahan o kaya ay makibahagi sa mismong confirmation of charges hearing and until sa full trial process mga kabombo. And of course, may mga reaction din ho tayong inaantabayanan hinggil sa bagay po na ito at iba pang mga napapanahong paksa na may kaugnayan sa confirmation of charges hearing kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Kuha tayo ng update mula kay Bombo Victor Liantino.
Bombo Dennis, bahagi pa rin nga nitong confirmation of charges para ho sa kasong crimes against humanity ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Ibinunyag naman ng kampo ng mga biktima ng war on drugs sa International Criminal Court ang patuloy na nararanasang pangharas di umano mula sa mga taga-suporta ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. At sa pagpapatuloy nga nitong confirmation of charges hearing ngayong araw, ay inilatag ni Attorney Joel Butuyan, ang Common Legal Representative ng mga biktima, ang kasalukuyang sitwasyon ng mga naulila at mga nakaligtas. Ayon kay Attorney Butuyan, ang mga matininding taga-suporta ng dating Pangulo ay nagsisilbing mga mini Dutertes at Duterte clones. Dagdag pa ng abogado, ang mga individual na ito sa Pilipinas ay nahawaan na umano ng virus of impunity na nag-ugat sa mga pulisiya ng Administrasyong Duterte. Ang manifestasyong ito ay bahagi nga ng paglalahad ng mga kinatawan ng biktima upang ipakita sa International Tribunal ang malawakan at patuloy na epekto ng mga dugong kampanya kontra droga dahil kahit pa wala na Butuyan sa isinasagawang confirmation of charges sa kasong crimes against humanity ni dating Pangulong Duterte.
Impunity in the Philippines, and I will resume, Your Honor. The plague of impunity has spread not only among Filipinos in the Philippines, but even among expatriate Filipinos in faraway lands like here in The Hague. When we reported to the victims that their external legal representatives feel like fugitives who avoid our own countrymen here in The Hague, because chances are they are Duterte clones, they express their utmost concern that if we, their lawyers, feel threatened by mini Dutertes in a foreign country, we should imagine the far more intense fear they live with every day in their communities teeming with mini Dutertes. The victims also wish to convey that if the judges of this honorable chamber can be subjected to online harassment by Duterte clones, we should imagine the level of vulnerability the victims are exposed to in their poor villages. Your Honors, there is only one solution to stop the impunity propagated by Mr. Duterte from continuing to bring harm and suffering to the victims. And that is for this honorable chamber to confirm the charges so that witnesses can testify and evidence can be presented on the horrible crimes committed by Mr. Duterte. The testimonies and evidence presented will inoculate these mini Dutertes from the virus of impunity that has infected them. When they will see and hear the utter cruelty, the sheer brutality, in other words, the brazen inhumanity of the crimes committed by Mr. Duterte, and the humanity of those whose lives were violently taken, it will rekindle the embers of humanity that still remain in their hearts. Many of these mini Dutertes or Duterte clones are actually victims of massive doses of fake news widely circulated online. They need to be vaccinated with the truth, and the truth vaccine can only come from the testimonies of witness of victims and evidence presented in a trial before this court. Truth is the antidote to the virus of impunity, Your Honors. The victims dread a future where charges are not confirmed in this case. It will mean that the virus of impunity will continue to spread and infect many more. Victims fear that Duterte clones will become an even bigger group that can elect another apostle of impunity as the Philippines' next leader. If that happens, an even more serious condition of impunity can take place in the Philippines, possibly worse than the orgy of violence that happened from 2011 to 2019, and this time there will be no ICC to run to for assistance and help.
Mga kabombot ka Sir Nation, bahagi yan ng naging pahayag ni Attorney Joel Butuyan sa nagpapatuloy nga na confirmation of charges sa kasong crimes against humanity against that former President Rodrigo Duterte. Samantala, labis nga itong pagkadismaya ng pamilya ng mga biktima ng war on drugs matapos nga na hindi nga sumipot itong si dating Pangulong Duterte sa confirmation of charges hearing sa kanyang kinakaharap na kaso, at giniit ni Attorney Joel Butuyan ang mga abogado ho ng biktima na mahalagang bahagi sana ng hustisya itong pagharap ng dating Pangulo sa mga reklamong crimes against humanity na inihain laban sa kanya. Kasabay ho nito ay umapila naman ng abogado o sa tribunal na huwag ibasura ang kaso dahil ito na lamang umano ang natitirang recourse na mga naulila matapos nga aminin ng mismong gobyerno ng Pilipinas na mahirap patunayan ang kaso sa lokal na sistema. At lumiban nga itong si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa pagdinig dahil sa paninindigang hindi niya kinikilala ang jurisdiksyon ng International Criminal Court. At batay nga sa talaan ng gobyerno, nasa 6,000 lamang o 6,200 mahigit ang napatay sa isinagawang anti-drug operations ng mga operatiba ng ating bansa sa kasagsagan ho yan ng pagpapatupad natong drug war o war on drugs ng nakalipas na administrasyon. Ngunit tinatayang aabot umano sa 30,000 itong kabuang bilang ng mga nasawi ayon niya naman sa mga human rights group. Samantala ay ito namang magkahiwalay naman o magkasabay naman na naglunsad ng kani-kanilang pagtitipon sa labas ng International Criminal Court. Ito mga kaanak ng mga biktima ng war on drugs at mga taga-suporta rin ni dating Pangulong Duterte at ikinasa nga ang magkahiwalay na aktibidad ngayong araw kasabay nga ng pagsisimula nitong confirmation of charges hearing ng pre-trial chamber ng ICC laban kay dating Pangulong Duterte. At sa kabila nga ho ng matinding lamig, nagmarcha patungo sa korte at naglunsad ho ng programa eto mga pamilya ng biktima habang nakaantabay naman ang iba sa live stream mismo netong naturang pagdinig at panawagan nila kumpirmahin ang mga kaso at panagutin ang dating Pangulo pati na ang iba pang sangkot sa umano'y extrajudicial killings sa ilalim ng nakalipas na administrasyon. Sa kabilang banda naman ay nagsagawa rin ng sariling programa etong mga taga-suporta ng dating Pangulo na nakakuha ng kaukulang permit. Bitbit ang isang standing ni Duterte, nilinaw nilang hindi ito isang protesta kundi pagpapakita lamang ng suporta at umaasa ang grupo na ibabasura ng International Criminal Court ang mga akusasyon laban sa dating Pangulo. At inaasahan nga na magpapatuloy itong pagtitipo naman sa labas ng International Criminal Court hanggang sa pagtatapos ng pagdinig dakong alas 3 ng hapon oras huyaan doon sa bahagi ng the Netherlands o The Hague, the Netherlands. Yan muna ang aking ulat mula dito o para yan sa special coverage para sa confirmation of charges hearing laban o para doon sa kaso ng crimes against humanity against former President Rodrigo Duterte. Ito po si Bombo Victor Lentino nag-uulat para sa number 1 and most trusted source of news and information, Basta Radio, Bombo!
Ayan si Bombo Victor, mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation. Ilang puntos din ang kanyang tinutukan hinggil ho dito sa mga protesta, mga pagkilos ng mga supporters ng magkabilang panig dyan pa rin ho sa The Hague sa bahagi ng Netherlands. And of course, sa pagkakataong ito, bago ho natin ibalik dun sa The Hague ang mga kaganapan at makuha natin live muli ang proceedings, ay eto muna konting mga paglilinaw sa mga bagay-bagay. Kapiling ho natin sa ating linya ng komunikasyon si Attorney Rodel Taton, international law expert, Dean ng Graduate School of Law ng San Sebastian College of Recoletos, Manila. At matanong lamang natin, magandang gabi na ho ng aming pagbati. Attorney Taton, si Bombo Dennis Jamito po ito. At tayo ho ay napapakinggan sa Bombo Radio Philippines. Ilang punto lamang ho yung nais naming bigyan ng mabigyan po ninyo ng paglilinaw o kaya ay kukulang paliwanag bago ho tayo mag-resume dun sa tinututukan nating kaganapan sa the Netherlands. Kung sakasakali ho kasi na magkaroon ng yung pag-usad, yung charges against the former president, o kaya naman, halimbawa, nandyan din yung posibilidad na ito ho ay ma-drop, kung hindi nga magtuloy-tuloy yung trial, papaano ho kaya? Ano ba ang magiging kahihinatnan ho nito? Malaking katanungan ho ito sa mga oras na ito. Otomatiko kaya na makakalaya siya o makakabalik na dito sa Pilipinas? When you say kasi makalaya, pwedeng pansamantala lamang na makalabas, yung kagaya ho ng interim release. Pero yung iba naman, ang gusto talaga makabalik sa Pilipinas ang dating presidente. So paano ito, Attorney Taton, na pakipaliwanag lamang po para sa kabatiran ng atin mga taga-subaybay?
As a consequence, since if ever that the charges will not be forwarded, so there are no clear charges, then it is as a result, of course, he will be released from incarceration or detention, sorry. And as to the others, I think they must be subjected to presentation also of the charges. Remember that here the confirmation will only be as against former President Duterte. And in fact, during the trial, the first identification, he was only alone there. So I mean to say that the International Criminal Court has no jurisdiction as to the other co-perpetrators because they are not yet arrested.
Okay. So, pero kung may mga masasabi ba tayo, may isa-cite po ba tayo, attorney, na mga dati ng kaso na yung primary o kaya principal suspect o yung talagang inaakusahan, sa bagay, itong level na ito, suspect pa lamang ho, si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, pwede ho kayang makalaya or may mga previous na ba na nakalaya, pati ho yung mga co-perpetrators, if there is any, batay ho sa inyong pananaliksik, Attorney Taton?
They are considered co-perpetrators here, no? So if they share the same intention, then they will all be facing the same charges. So if one can prove that the evidence is not sufficient as to him and the evidence is not admissible, then it is probable also that it may be dismissed as to him but not to all.
Okay. Sa konteksto naman ho ng pagpapanagot na nababanggit po ninyo, pwede rin ba na tignan natin doon sa kumbaga futuristic approach, kasi dati na ho na nag-declare si Vice President Sara Duterte na tatakbo sa pagkapangulo sa 2028. But of course, sinasabi, posible magkaroon ng malaking impact ito. Anyway, bago ho natin pag-usapan pa yung ibang mga paksa, pasintabi lang po, attorney, at bibigyan na natin yung pag-usad ng confirmation of charges hearing dun ho sa The Hague. Mga kabombo, mga ka-Star-Nation, ito ating pakinggan at panoorin.
Once again, good day everyone. We will now move on to good day everyone. Submissions on the merit to Mr. Prosecutor. Please proceed. You have 1 hour today.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Your Honors. My name is Julian Nichols, and good afternoon to you and to my colleagues on the other side and to everybody in the courtroom. Your Honors, we're here today because the evidence shows, despite what we heard for the last 30 minutes before the break, that Mr. Duterte murdered thousands of his own people, Filipino men, women, and children. He was at the center of a common plan, which included the murder of alleged criminals throughout the Philippines. The plan was first implemented in Mr. Duterte's hometown of Davao. While mayor, he promised to clean up the city by killing alleged criminals. He kept that promise, and he murdered hundreds through so-called liquidation squads, death squads. These liquidation squads became notoriously known colloquially as the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. After years, 2 decades, of murdering alleged criminals as mayor of Davao, it became clear to him that this political strategy could be leveraged for higher office and for more power, the presidency. And that is exactly what he did. During his campaign to be president, Mr. Duterte expressly promised many times that he would kill criminals if elected. He claimed that Davao was Exhibit A in why he should be elected. And he pledged, that if he won, he would expand the killings nationwide. He won, and that is what he did. And as you will hear tomorrow from Mr. Jeremy and Ms. Croft, the murders skyrocketed in the months immediately after Mr. Duterte became president in June 2016. And that was no coincidence. That was him fulfilling his campaign pledge. As president, he murdered thousands using many of the same co-perpetrators and methods from his time as mayor of Davao. So he moved the method and some of the co-perpetrators to Manila in order to expand it, the crimes. The victims in this case ranged from powerful individuals to predominantly the poorest citizens of the Philippines. Now, why were the poor selected and victimized? Well, it was often because they were the most vulnerable. They didn't have the families and the power to make police reports, and they were the most afraid. Mr. Duterte boasted about the killings that resulted in thousands of deaths at his order, and not once at any time has he shown any remorse. He promised, also, you will hear, to take responsibility, personal responsibility, for the killings, if need be. Well, that time has come. We are confident that if your honors confirm the charges in this case, that we will prevail and Mr. Duterte will be convicted at trial. We talk a little bit about what my friend, one of the things he said during his 30 minutes. In our presentation today, you will hear Mr. Duterte, in his own words, calling for killings, bragging about killings, and as I said, vowing to take responsibility for those killings, if necessary. And the defense, I have in my outline, may claim, but they already have, the defense claim that this is hyperbole, bluster, exaggeration, part of his blunt or direct strongman political speech, which had brought him political success in Davao and then nationwide. And the defense will also point your honors to many instances where Mr. Duterte and his allies tried to build a veneer, kind of fig leaf of plausible deniability by sprinkling in references to the effect that the police should only shoot to kill in self-defense. Those references to self-defense appear throughout Mr. Duterte's speeches. They're all over the place. We don't run away from that. We don't shy away from that. That's part of our theory. So the defense will say, and again, they already have, that we've cherry-picked the statements we show you, but we have not. We acknowledge these many references to self-defense in Mr. Duterte's speeches. But the evidence which is in our pre-confirmation brief, and some of which will lead today, overwhelmingly shows that those references to self-defense and following the law and to due process are nothing but nonsense. Keep in mind, as mayor, he created a death squad. A leader who creates, leads, arms, and funds a death squad is not interested in due process or following the law. Those empty utterances were simply Mr. Duterte, who's chosen not to be here today. Those were simply him acting as the former prosecutor, trying to build in some semblance of a defense, preparing for the day, should it ever come, as it now has, that he would be held to account. It was to give his lawyers something to say. But look at it over here, where I said don't shoot except in self-defense. The reality is that Mr. Duterte's message was clear, and it was understood by the perpetrators, and it was followed. That message was, commit murder at my direction, and I will protect you, I will pay you, I will promote you. And that's what happened. And I'll say this as well, Your Honors. For purposes of this confirmation hearing, disregard every speech ever made by Mr. Duterte. Throw them all out. There is still ample evidence of substantial grounds based on the other evidence which we have put on our list of evidence. And the evidence as a whole, when you weigh it together, will show that what my friend said is not correct, that Mr. Duterte intended for his subordinates to follow the law, and that he was interested, and that his speeches were simply bluster. I'll talk briefly now about the charges in the case. As the deputy prosecutor stated, we have 49 incidents totaling 76 murder victims and 2 victims of attempted murder. And of course, those are expanded upon in our pretrial brief, or PCB. Now, as my friends said in the LRV, while there are countless victims who've experienced harm as a result of Mr. Duterte's crimes, we have focused the charges in this case to these 49 incidents and these number of victims in order to ensure that this trial can be expeditious and that it can be efficient and that it won't go on for years and years. So these charged murders are emblematic. They're representative of Mr. Duterte's larger killing campaign. I was going to talk about the legal standard for today, but Your Honors explained it extremely clearly in the beginning of the introduction, so I won't go into it, other than to say, of course, the standard we have to meet is substantial grounds, which I am confident we will. The only thing I would add is that this stage of the proceedings, in addition to not being a mini trial or a trial before a trial, it's also not the time for the chamber to in-depth determine the credibility of witnesses. That can only properly be addressed at trial by the trial chamber when the witnesses are called to testify before the judges and their evidence is properly tested. And there I would point Your Honors to the Said confirmation decision, 9 December 2021, at paragraph 39. We'll move on now. We can go to the next slide, James. I'll talk a little bit about Mr. Duterte's background. He was born on the 28th of March, 1945, and he prides himself, or portrays himself at least, as someone who understands the problems of the poor. But as my friend stated, he actually comes from a very privileged family. His father was a lawyer, a politician, even a provincial governor. And as a young man, Mr. Duterte became a lawyer. He went to law school, practiced as a prosecutor in Davao City for almost a decade, from 1977 to 1986. And you find that in our pre-confirmation brief at paragraph 2. While he was a prosecutor, he taught criminal law and procedure to police officers in Davao City. And despite this privileged background, despite his deep familiarity with the law and criminal law, Mr. Duterte embraced criminality from the beginning of his career. Just one example. As a prosecutor, the evidence shows he taught police officers to plant evidence. We can go to the next slide, please, James. I won't read the whole slide out, Your Honors. This is tab 57, PHL OTP 000-15506 R01. But this witness with direct knowledge stated, quote, "He's like planting of evidence. It is necessary," and the he is Duterte. He called it necessary evil. So they said that there are times in police work that you have to do the necessary evil for the sake of the common good, end quote. And I think you'll see, Your Honors, that that's a theme that runs through Mr. Duterte's career. He's willing to do whatever he considers the necessary evil, either for the common good or for his political advancement, or both. And Mr. Duterte confirmed years later, in 2024, when being questioned under oath during a hearing in the Philippines House of Representatives, that planting evidence was his strategy as mayor. Now, at first he denied it in this hearing, but then he admitted to planting evidence in this exchange. If we can go to the next slide. This is tab 46.1, Your Honors. Chairperson, quote, so you really did plant evidence. Mr. Duterte's answer, well, that was part of the strategy as a mayor and as a leader of the law enforcement agency in the city, end quote. His privilege, his legal background makes this betrayal of the law and embrace of murder even more inexcusable. He knew, as a lawyer, as a former prosecutor, that his so-called crackdown on crime was a criminal attack on civilians of the Philippines. And overwhelmingly, the evidence shows, on poor civilians. The poorest of the poor were his victims. He knew his conduct, at its core, was criminal. And not only did Mr. Duterte clearly intend his criminality, he openly bragged about it. Right up until his arrest, and we'll get to that later, but right up until his arrest, he bragged about it. He thrives on a tough guy persona or image that he's tried to create for himself. My friend talked about him riding motorcycles. Well, one example I'll show you is from 2007 now, if we could play that, James. And I should say this is tab 18.
Elite, never losing an election.
So, riding a Harley Davidson, shooting a semi-automatic pistol. This is the image he's trying to create from the beginning. He likes to pose with weapons. If we can go to the next one, James. This is tab 80. And here in this photo, which was published in a newspaper, you can see Mr. Duterte holding an assault rifle. And I'll just note that we also see in this photo, to the immediate left of the photo, Ronald Bato de la Rosa. Bato is the nickname. And to Mr. Duterte's immediate right, Isidro La Peña. And we'll hear more about them later. Even days before he was arrested, 3 days before he was transferred to The Hague, this tough guy persona was on display again during a speech in Hong Kong. He brushed off the possibility of an ICC arrest warrant, and he referred to the ICC, quote, as motherfuckers who have been after him for a long time, end quote. This is him on March 9th, 2025. If you could play that, James. This is tab 136.
Sa totoo lang, baka ang balita ko may warrant daw ako pag... Hindi, totoo. Yung sa ICC or something. Matagal na akong hinahabol ng mga
That's him 3 days before coming to The Hague. Of course, after arriving in the Hague, his lawyers very soon began arguing that Mr. Duterte was not fit enough for these proceedings. wasn't physically or mentally fit enough to be put on trial or for his charges to be confirmed. But fortunately, a panel of 3 medical experts that Your Honors appointed found unanimously that he is. The point is that despite what the defense may say here or to the press, Mr. Duterte is perfectly fine. He's able to attend the proceedings today. There is nothing stopping him except that he doesn't want to be here. He chose not to face the court, not to face the victims. There is no reason for him not to be here other than his request and choice. I'll move on now briefly to his time as mayor in Davao, Your Honors. We can quickly bring up the map, James. There we see Davao in the south. We can zoom in. I don't think there's any dispute where Davao is. He was first elected mayor of Davao City in 1988 and served as mayor for more than 20 years, between 88 and 2016. And as the deputy prosecutor has noted, jurisdiction for this case is 1st November 2011 to 16 March 2019. We're limited to that jurisdiction. So that is the period we will concentrate on today, although, of course, before and after may be relevant. As mayor of Davao, Mr. Duterte promised a crackdown on crime. To quote, crackdown, end quote, on crime and drugs, Mr. Duterte created liquidation squads, death squads, made up both of Davao City police officers as well as non-police officers who were essentially hired hitmen, hired killers. And this system of his became known as the Davao model. The Davao model was murder, not being tough on crime legally, as my friend said. And you have to think, it's a little strange cracking down on crime by committing the crime of murder. Of course, Mr. Duterte did not commit these crimes alone. We discussed the co-perpetrators, including during the mayoral period, in our pre-confirmation brief, Your Honors. And you'll find that at paragraphs 8 to 23. I'll talk about just a few of them now, just to introduce them. First, if we go to the slide, thank you. Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who was a chief of the Davao City Police Office, or DCPO, from 2012 to 2013. Next, Vicente Danao, another police chief in Davao during the period. Next, Christopher Bongo, who was Mr. Duterte's aide, special assistant, and important advisor from 1998 to 2016 for the Davao period, and then continued later in the presidency. Mr. Dante Guiran, regional director of the National Bureau of Investigation. And finally, Italiano Aguirre, who is a lawyer for Mr. Duterte and for some of the DDS members during the mayoral period. And Ms. Croft will discuss these co-perpetrators and their roles in more depth in her presentation, which will be tomorrow. Let me talk now a little bit about the structure of the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. And as we say in our brief, it's a pyramidal structure. If we go, James, to the next one. Again, this colloquially became known as the Davao Death Squad, and it had a hierarchical pyramid-like structure. At the very top, as mayor, Rodrigo Duterte. And as mayor, he had, of course, de jure control over the Davao police. And the evidence shows, para 34, we talk about this in our brief, he also had de facto control. Under him were co-perpetrators, some of whom I have mentioned. The co-perpetrators had different roles, but one of them was to relay orders and instructions down from Mr. Duterte to the DDS handlers, and also to relay reports back up to Mr. Duterte. So a typical chain of command. The instructions go down, the reports go up. And the handlers were responsible for the different death squads or DDS members. And at the very bottom, the lowest rung, the DDS members who actually perpetrated the killings, who carried out physically the murders. And they were made up of both police officers, who were generally lower level police officers, as well as non-police persons who were hired. These members at the bottom were often recruited because they had a debt or owed something to Mr. Duterte or the police, and they could therefore be controlled. And those members at the very bottom were at risk themselves, because if they did not follow orders, or if they tried to leave the DDS, they could be tortured or killed or both. And there is evidence of that in this case. I'll talk now just for a few moments about the founding of the DDS, Duterte's death squad, the genesis of the death squads. One witness described his initiation into the DDS. He described it happening in 1988 at a dinner meeting in a hotel in Davao City. And this was a huge deal for this witness. I mean, it was almost unimaginable being invited to a dinner in a hotel in the center of Davao where he was going to meet the mayor. Mr. Duterte was present, and he openly told the new members of the death squad he was forming that their job was to kill criminals. If we can go to the next slide, James. This is tab 50, Your Honors. This is what the witness recalls of the meeting. Quote, he, Duterte, told us that your job here in the city would be to kill the drug pushers, the snatchers, and the holduppers. That's what our job is going to be, end quote. And in private, with his paid killers, Mr. Duterte didn't say anything about self-defense. He then provided these death squad members with guns and ammunition, and again, in a festive way, a basket was passed around filled with handguns, and the new members could pull one out, like getting a prize. So they would each have a weapon for their new job. It was a celebratory event for Mr. Duterte. The witness explained Mr. Duterte was happy at this dinner meeting. He was laughing, and he even sprayed a bottle of champagne to celebrate. That's at para 5 for our PCB. One witness recalls, we can go to the next slide, James, thank you. Recalled of this event, quote, he, Duterte again, said it was like a baptismal, like a launching. He was very happy at that moment, end quote. That's tab 51. Mr. Duterte was very happy at the birth of the DDS. It's important to note, Your Honors, Mr. Duterte has freely admitted his role in the Davao death squad. He doesn't deny it. Well, now he does, but he did not before he came here. During an interview with a local news station in 2015, he admitted that he is the Davao death squad. And if we could play that now, please, James. This is tab
Ako daw ang death
11.
squad.
So how do you react to that?
Tinood. Tinood na.
They say I'm the death squad. True. That's true. You know, Your Honors, in some ways, this case is not exactly complicated. That's not the only time Mr. Duterte admitted his role with the death squad. He repeated under oath that he had a death squad at the Blue Ribbon Committee in the Philippine Senate in 2024, about 10 years after the clip we just saw. However, in this exchange, he denied that the death squad included police officers in some type of apparent effort to protect them. This is tab 41.1, if you could bring it up, please. Mr. Duterte, under oath, quote, I can make the confession now if you want. I really took care of it. But please don't involve the police. They're the ones who suffer, sir. I have a death squad, but not the police. These were gangsters. He says it again. In the same hearing, he confirms this admission. Go to the next one, please. Tab 41.1. The senator asks, quote, so what the former president dropped earlier, that they have a death squad, was a bombshell. Whatever name it goes by, whether police or non-police. Because it looks like what we are investigating now is the instrument used for the war on drugs, which led to numerous extrajudicial killings. For the record, Mr. Chair. End quote. Mr. Duterte's response, quote, you are correct, ma'am. You are absolutely right. End quote. It's not on a slide, but he also stated bluntly, same tab, 41.1, same hearing, quote, my death squad, ma'am, is of course, it is organized. That's all I can say, end quote. So that is 4 times, 3 of them under oath, that he admitted having a death squad in Davao, including saying he is the death squad. That's not hyperbole. That's not bluster. That's him telling the truth when he feels safe. And that he can bank on his continued impunity. Talk just for a few moments now, Your Honors, about how the Davao Death Squad operated under its architect, Mr. Duterte. Victims were usually targeted in one of 2 ways. Sometimes an informant would provide information on a target, and the handler would then get clearance from Mr. Duterte through one of the co-perpetrators in the pyramid we saw earlier to kill the target. Sometimes Mr. Duterte himself would give the target's name, would say who to kill, which would be communicated by one of the co-perpetrators to a handler, and then down to the DDS member tasked with actually carrying out the killing. But whichever way it took place, Mr. Duterte's clearance, his approval was required, his permission was required for DDS members to conduct these murders. And several witnesses confirmed that, and I'll go through them in a minute. But first, Your Honor, just to react to something my friend said in the previous session. This was at I think 12:22 onwards on the transcript. He stated to the effect, the prosecution couldn't even get one witness to admit they heard Rodrigo Duterte give an order to kill. Here's where it gets a little bit cute. At any time relevant to the charges or with respect to any of the incidents. So my friend didn't say the prosecution doesn't have any witness who heard Mr. Duterte give an order to kill. He's saying during this time period. I'd point your honors and my friend to PHL OTP 000 15517 at page 0002, lines 18 to 21, where a witness is asked, now did you ever hear Sarah, this is Sarah Duterte, give any instructions for killings to take place? Witness, personally no. Interviewer, okay. Witness, but the father, of course, many times. But this was before 2011. I would suggest that doesn't make much difference. Going back to the confirmations of his clearance, if we could go to next slide. Yes. This is tab 35, Your Honors. The witness stated, quote, only one person was making the decisions. You had to ask Duterte. Because if we didn't make that request, if we didn't ask for authorization, we would be chased or we would be pursued. End quote. Another witness stated, if we go to the next one, please. Tab 58, quote, we cannot conduct a clearing or killing operations without his clearance. Speaking of Mr. Duterte, we called it clearance, end quote. Finally, on the next slide, perhaps the simplest, the witness recalled, quote, a different witness recalled, quote, you cannot just kill anyone in Davao City without Duterte's approval. Otherwise, you will be charged, end quote. It's tab 117. In exchange for carrying out the murders as directed, the DDS members would be paid reward money. One witness stated, if we go to the next one, please, James, he recalled, this is tab 56, quote, every kill, the first reward money, to my recall, it was $10,000 per kill, end quote. And in addition to paying rewards for specific murders to the person who carried out the murder, Mr. Duterte also paid some of the DDS hitmen who were not police officers salaries by making them false employees of City Hall that he ran as mayor. These were so-called ghost employees. They got ID, they received salaries from the city of Davao, they were put on the books, but it was all a ruse because their only job was to kill. So it was Mr. Duterte using the city government and the apparatus to fund his death squad. He also, I'll just note quickly, provided death squad members with firearms, as I talked about earlier at the beginning of the DDS, but also with vehicles and ammunition so that they could carry out their crimes. We'll go to count one now, and I'll talk just a little bit about count one. Mr. Jeremy will talk about counts 2 and 3 tomorrow. Count one is in relation to murders in and around Davao City during the mayoral period by the DDS. It encompasses 9 incidents of murder by Mr. Duterte's death squad of 19 victims in total. 3 of those 19 victims were children. I'll go to just one quick example. Incident 3 in our pre-confirmation brief, murders in Agdao Market. I'm just going to go through one of them. Your Honors, this is at paragraphs 91 to 92 of our pre-confirmation brief. and page 36 of the notebook we passed around this morning. Incident 3 is about the murders, or what happened in Incident 3 is the murder of 3 people in that market on or about 4 December 2013. For carrying out the murders, 3 DDS members who we'll see received instructions from their handler that there was a job to be done. And the victims in this crime were 3 alleged thieves. So we have 3 hitmen and 3 victims. The informant helped the DDS hitmen to locate the targets, the victims, who were at a shop in Agdao Market that day. And when the hitmen reached the shop, each one shot and killed one of the targets and murdered them in broad daylight. After the killing, the hitmen reported back to their handler up the pyramid chain that the job was done. And their handler, in this case, then informed Sonny Buenaventura, who at that time was one of Mr. Duterte's most trusted men. The reward for this incident, for these 3 murders, was 90,000 pesos total. That's at our brief at para 91. Now, what's interesting about this incident is that a few weeks later, after the murders, a video of Mr. Duterte watching the crime on CCTV was posted to YouTube. And I'll show that video, Your Honors, in a minute. But in the video, you'll see Mr. Duterte standing in the CCTV room looking at a bank of television screens. The video then zooms in on the CCTV footage of the crime, and you see 3 DDS members walking up the street in the market. You see them turn to the right, pull out their guns, their pistols, shoot the 3 victims who are off the screen, and then they walk and jog away, and they don't look very worried. And the video then zooms out, and you see different people running to see what has happened because they've heard the shots. Okay, can we play that, please?
Sa Makati, ganito din.
At most warning sa brother.
Katong patay sa Agdao. Eh, tanawin mo yun. Tanawin doon kalakaw. Kanawa. Fiskal, pati pambot ka sa imo. Morder mo din klaro. Kanawa. Kaya, bukada. May pagkita ni Esar Rosales. Kawan na. Sabihin na lang mo. Kana. Lahat tulog. Ano ba? Tanong mo lang sa mga tao. Dito, patay na. Ito.
And you have to wonder if what my friend said is true, that Mr. Duterte is an honest mayor trying to solve crime. You have to wonder, Mr. Duterte portrayed himself as tough on crime, law and order enforcer. This triple murder was filmed. Mayor Duterte watched it himself. You can see the perpetrators committing the crime. Yet, Mr. Duterte, the former prosecutor, Mr. Tough on Crime, could not get this triple murder committed in a market in broad daylight with multiple eyewitnesses solved? Of course not, because it was his murder. And that brings me to the next point, which is clear. DDS members did not fear punishment because they were committed at Mr. Duterte's orders or direction. He authorized this Incident 3 killing and the others in Davao City. That's at our PCB, our brief, 71 to 72. And that's why, of course, the death squad members were not being arrested, worried about being arrested for the murders they carried out. And if we go to the next slide, James, one of them says very simply, quote, when asked if he's worried about being prosecuted for the killings he committed, his answer was, quote, no. As long as it has been cleared, I wouldn't worry. End quote. Tab 30. And it's highly understandable that the DDS members were not worried about being prosecuted for the murders they committed, because Mayor Duterte took pride in these killings. He was interviewed as mayor in late 2015, and a reporter put a question to him, asked him about a human rights group report which suggested that he had killed 700 people in Davao. I'll play the video, and we'll see his response. You'll also see, just before we play that, Mr. Christopher Bongo is in this video to Mr. Duterte's right. Look at the question, look at Mr. Duterte's answer.
700 no, pinatay ko. Nagkulang ho sila sa kwenta. Medyo mga 1,700.
No denial. Instead, he takes credit for 1,000 more killings. That isn't bluster. That's not hyperbole. That's the truth. I'll move on now, Your Honors, coming to the end, and talk a little bit about his road to the presidency. He saw that the political success of his Davao model, as my friend said, he kept getting reelected. It was working. He saw that the political success of the Davao model of killing alleged criminals could be leveraged for more power, higher office. As I said in the beginning, that's exactly what he did. During his presidential campaign, he campaigned on a promise, a pledge to implement the common plan to kill alleged criminals nationwide if elected. I'm going to play a video now, Your Honors, that are just some of the speeches he made. It's a compilation of four. This is a tab 12 of 4 videos. It's about 4 minutes, but it gives an idea. These are not all the statements, but it gives an idea of the man who ran for president in 2016. If we can play that, James.
3 to 6 months, sabi ko, I will eradicate corruption, criminality, and drugs. If I become the president, I will order the military and the police to hunt down the drug lords, the big ones, and kill them. Tell me what my credentials to the presidency? Then I'd say, Davao is Exhibit A. Ngayon, dito sa Davao, hindi sabihin ito malinis itong bayan na to. It's not perfect. So that maybe I said, kung dating ako doon sa Pasig, I can promise you, not heaven, but I will promise you a comfortable life. Corruption has to stop. Criminality has to stop. Either makuha ko ang gusto ko or you perish. Magprangkahan na lang tayo. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Patayan yan.
I promise you, hindi naman believe yung ibang tao. Sabi ko, I would stop drugs and crime, criminality in 3 to 6 months. That's too ambitious. My God, subukan ninyo ako. That's what I told the Davao criminals before. Pinapatawag ko pa, do you want to go out of the city? Gusto mong pumunta ng Manila, maganda ang buhay doon. Doon ka na lang, gusto mo? Eh di, yung hindi naniwala, di patay. O di, anong pag-usapan natin dyan? Bakit para sa akin? Did I do it for my own? For my own benefit? To enrich myself? What does the life of a criminal got to do with your pocket? No. Nabi ko lang, I want a peaceful city. Umalis kayo. Pag hindi, papatayin ko talaga kayo. Di pinatay ko. Huwag na tayo magtagot-taw pa. Papagkaprang ka na lang. Ngayon ako, I have this. Kung ako ang presidente, huwag muna kayo mag-demonstrate. Give me time. Give me time kasi nag-hearit talaga ako. At sa kung gusto naman at hindi, talagang gagawin ko. Hihirit ako. Ang sabi ko sa military pati police, only criminals, drug-related offenses. I will tell the police and the military, go out and kill them. Period. Alam naman nila.
Alam mo ito, pag ako ang na-presidente, I would warn you, I do not covet the position. Pag na-presidente ako, magtago na kayo. Yung 1,000 nan, it would reach 50,000. I would kill all you making the life of the Filipino miserable. Mapatayin ko talaga kayo. Kasi manalo ako dahil nga yung breakdown sa law and order. I do not want to commit a crime. But if by chance, per chance, God would place me there, magbantay kayo, kasi itong 1,000 na ito maging 100,000. Diyan mo makita, tataba yung isda dyan sa Manila Bay. Diyan ko kayo itapon. I do not want to be president. I do not want to kill people. So do not elect me as president.
If I become the president, I will order the military and
3 to 6 months.
Oops. Sorry. So, if I become the president, I will order the military and the police to hunt down the drug lords, the big ones, and kill them. Tell me, what is my credentials to the presidency? Then I'll say, Davao is Exhibit A. Either I get what I want or you perish. Let's be straightforward. What does that mean? That means killings. You should get out. If not, I will really kill you. So I killed them. Let's not play hide and seek anymore. Let's just be frank. I will tell the police and the military, go out and kill them, period. I will really kill you. I do not want to kill people, so do not elect me as president. That's the man before you for this hearing, even if he's not in court today. He repeatedly promised to kill people, his own people, if elected president. He said it, he did it, that's who he is. He won the election, became president on 30 June 2016, and did exactly as he said he would. He murdered thousands of people by taking the Davao model nationwide. I'm finished, Your Honor, and perhaps I would suggest that the next presentation start tomorrow, if you don't mind, because we only have 5 minutes.
Judge Motok, thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Your presentation and your suggestion. We have now come to the end of this first day of hearings. I would like to thank all the parties and participants, as well as our interpreters, the registry, and the technical staff, as well as all those who contributed towards the success of this hearing. The hearing is adjourned, and we will resume tomorrow according to our schedule. See you tomorrow.
Yan mga kabombo at mga ka-Star Nation ang naging takbo ng unang araw ng confirmation of charges sa hearing dyan sa International Criminal Court. At sa huling bahagi itong mula sa prosecution na nagsalita ay meron ho mga naipresenta ng mga clips kung saan ito ay bahagi ng mga interviews dito kay former President Rodrigo Duterte. At kabilang ho dyan yung mga pronouncement ng dating Chief Executive na binabanggit ang tungkol sa kanyang mga direktiba o kautusan doon sa para sa peace and order situation nung kanyang panahon bilang alkalde ng Davao City at hanggang siya ay mangalal bilang presidente ng Pilipinas. So mga kabombo, mga ka-Star Nation, bukas itutuloy ho ang confirmation of charges hearing at tabay labang sa mga update kaugnay ho nito at para man sa mga nangyari kanina, mapapanood at mababasa ho ito sa ating Facebook ng Bombo Radio Philippines. Of course, sa ating official website, www.bomboradio.com. At yan ang ating pagtutok dito ho sa malaking kaganapan sa kaso ng former president na ginaganap ho dyan sa The Hague sa bahagi ng Netherlands. At mula rito sa Bombo News Center, Makati, this is Bombo Radio Philippines, the number one and most trusted source of news and information. Basta Radio, Bombo!
For the most trusted source of news and information, visit our website at www.bomboradio.com. Follow us on Bombo Radio mobile app, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter. Like, share, and stay connected. Anytime, anywhere.